So in that last video, we built the $5 Dumbleton, a tiny 1/4 watt guitar amp that sounded incredibly close to my real Dumble clone. Now, a lot of you basically asked the same question: how far can we actually push this tiny little circuit? Now, if you didn't see the first video, the Dumbleton is an LM386 1/4 watt amplifier, and with only a few component changes, you can drastically reshape how it sounds. So today I'm going to show you 5 simple mods that massively expand what this little amp can do. Okay, so these mods, really powerful but really simple. So the first is a gain control. The second is a bright switch. The third mod is a bass conversion mod, so you can use it with a bass guitar. The fourth mod, probably my favorite one, is a voicing control, so you can change how the amp reacts and responds along with its overall voicing, which is actually quite an exciting mod. And the last one, which is pretty crazy actually, is the preamp mod. So it converts it from being an amp you plug into a speaker cab into a pedal you can actually have on your board that has an insane amount of output. First up, probably the most satisfying mod, adding a gain control. So the LM386 actually lets you adjust the internal gain by using pins 1 and 8. So by adding a pot here, you can go from bit of edge of breakup all the way up to a much higher gain. So all you got to do is remove that 1K resistor that is between pins 1 and 8 and install a 1K linear taper pot between those pins. Just one wire going to each pin. That is it. Simple as. Let's just go through 3 gain settings: low, medium, and full gain. Okay, so the bright switch, all I'm doing here is adding a 100 nanofarad capacitor across pins 1 and 8. In this particular unit, I've added them across the gain pot because that's already connected to pins 1 and 8. And on the switch, I've added a second capacitor, 220 nanofarad. So in the center position, it's off, raised is 100 nanofarad and lowered is 220 nanofarad, and gives 2 different levels of brightness, which is actually really, really handy. Here's the stock sound, and then I'll do it with the bright switch. Okay, bass mod, really simple. The input capacitor on this, which is 22 nanofarad, you just double that to 47 nanofarad, and then the filter capacitor, which is 47 nanofarad, you need to also double that to 100 nanofarad, and that maintains the filter frequency at the input. A lot of people really love this circuit with bass because it doesn't have a lot of headroom, so it gives a really cool character to those bass notes. Have a listen. Now this uses a dual gang potentiometer here, and this is basically adjust that T filter network, letting you shape the mid-range character of the amp. It's a really powerful way to fine-tune this amp, even morph this into other amp voicings, which I think is really cool. So all you've got to do is remove those 2 12K resistors from the original design, and you replace them with one of these gangs of the pot in series with a 1K resistor. Okay, so let me show you here. We've got one side of the input capacitor going to one of the pots, the other side of the input capacitor going to the other gang of that pot. Then from the center lugs of these pots, you've got 1K resistors. They join together and they connect to that 47 nanofarad capacitor as part of that bridge T filter. And that's it. Now you've got a sweepable voicing control. Have a listen. We'll start at the stock sound, which is around about halfway, and then I'll show you the extremes of that voicing control, but it really transforms this into a completely different amp. So if you're a Workbench member over on my site, I'm adding these mods for free, and I'm also adding them into that schematic in my web shop. Now you don't actually need any schematic to do these mods or build this little thing. Just follow along with this video. It's only if you really prefer to work from a schematic or you want to support this channel. Let me spin it for this one. We've got the super hot preamp conversion mod. So this one gets a little ridiculous, but by adding a 10K audio taper pot after this output capacitor here, you actually turn the Dumbleton into a very hot preamp or booster. Now at this point, it's not really acting like a tiny amp anymore. It becomes more like a seriously powerful pedal style preamp. You could build it into an enclosure with an on-off switch, and that potentiometer could be your level. Just be really careful. The amount of output this has as a booster is totally insane. I'm going to be driving my Hot Rod Deluxe with this preamp. I'm only going to have it on around about a quarter output volume because it's totally insane. First, I'll show you the Deluxe straight in with my guitar, and then we'll go through that preamp. Absolutely hammering the front end of that amp. If you are planning to build this, make sure you check out that first Dumbleton video because there's a lot of important information you need to know there to make sure that your build is successful. This video is only really scratching the surface on what could be done with this awesome little chip. So if you do have any really cool mods that you've tried, let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear what they are. I hope you guys have fun building this thing. Thanks for checking it out, and we'll catch you in the next video.